I did love seeing the owner or the particular worker at the time. I don't know if he actually owned the place. But he had a little like setup where he had an iPad that he could watch movies on and do like some work. I loved watching the cats try to bother him. There's like 7 other people at least in this cafe, right? So the cats have their pick of, very polite patrons from what I could see to get pet. And what do? They go after their owner, a person they know, and demand to be pet. It was pretty cute. Thank you, Bacon Particles, for that Prime sub as we get into the finals. Best of 5. Top right, Byun. Bottom left, GuMiHo. Both of them sending out some fast SCVs, and both of them going to be scouted. Let me get the bet set up as well while we go through this. There we go. Okay. So this happened, basically like 2 days ago. So the Korean Open Cup, they both tried to proxy each other on Stargazers, and they scouted each other. And then what ended up happening was GuMiHo insisted on doing a proxy, and Byun gave up on the proxy. But then Byun's problem was more so that he just stopped scouting a lot. So yeah, he didn't like always know what GuMiHo's plan was. So it's maybe kind of a similar situation here. A little more problematic on Stargazers because GuMiHo ended up proxying Barracks and Factory, I believe, in the middle of the map. Then it turned into a fairly long mech versus bio game. At this one, it is a similar situation in that GuMiHo kind of insisted on a proxy, quote unquote. Very not proxied. And Byun gave up on the idea, despite wanting to really commit. He had 2 SCVs out on the map, and then it stopped scouting entirely. But that's usually okay when you're going to go into a factory expand anyways. So it really wasn't his decision to not go for the proxy or his lack of scouting that ended up killing him just like easy peasy lemon squeezy. He didn't miss an entire army that showed up at his front door. It was more like there was a lot more potential for GuMiHo that ended up eventually being realized. Eventually GuMiHo did 2-0 Byun, actually. So GuMiHo's been on a bit of a roll. He did ultimately in both games, despite what happened in the early game, it ultimately ended in mech versus bio, where Byun was almost never in a really comfortable position to face off against mech. He either had the whole JK proxy issue, or didn't realize there was an expansion, I think is what happened in the first game. GuMiHo got his 4th up and running without Byun realizing it. On this map, actually. Reverse the positions. Yeah. It's all coming back to me now. Thank you, Scout C Justice, for 100 bits. Hype it. So, are we going to have GuMiHo go for mech again is my big question. It worked out so well against Byun, even when the game was okay. The game on Data C, I'd say, was an okay game for Byun until he lost track of GuMiHo's 4th. Unlikely to make the same mistake so soon after the Open Cup on, Sunday afternoon for Koreans, actually. But the point is, like a day and a half ago.
Warning.
Whoa!
Programs detected in comm servers 04.
Someone continuing that Skamaz train with a non-Skamaz 5 gifted subs. Thank you very much, Anonymous, for that generosity. Hope everyone loves spamming the cat emotes.
Warning. Philanthropist programs detected in comm server 04.
I don't remember changing the settings to shout out every sub, but apparently it's going to do that.
Warning.
All right.
Philanthropist programs detected in comm server 04.
Not ideal, but that's what we're going with. Everyone gets a shout out.
Warning.
So, big difference in their follow-ups. The proxy, non-proxy thing from GuMiHo was pretty much non-consequential. Wait, was inconsequential. A non-issue. Okay, there you go. More importantly, GuMiHo went with the classic 1-1-1 setup of a TvT, going into Ravens and tanks. Byun opted for a faster second barracks, I believe, after Factory, so it was still a safe opener, but ultimately going really into a 2-1-1. So he's going to have more units, more map control, more mobility, and we'll see what he turns it into afterwards. There's a possibility he turns it into a 2-base push, but yeah, we'll wait on that. GuMiHo, very much the classic TvT as we know it, especially nowadays. 2-base attacks, 2-1-1-esque openers from Terrans. Whoops-a-daisy. I saw that, Byun. Looked at his command center. Anyways, this was something that was a lot more popular, I want to say, years ago. I keep referencing innovation for this because it was just, for me, when he was still playing the most and the most TvTs. He would 3CC. The opposing Terran would 2-base aggress. But not necessarily all in. It is mech again, by the way, from GuMiHo. He's got 2 gases up already. Oh, not even actually all that fast, to be honest. Oh, well, I don't. Maybe it was faster. But anyways. Second factory's on the way, guys. So that is the most damning evidence. And then there was a period where I want to say, like, Time was going for a lot more of these openers. Remember, there was, like, a season finals where he was getting really aggressive. TLDR, it's not too common, but it seems to be making somewhat of a resurgence. This 2-1-1 opener, the 2-base bio committal, I don't know how else you want to put that, as opposed to the tech-heavy 3rd CC emphasis, very typical, okay, let's do the Viking Raven thing. So I think what is nice about this for Byun is not just that I think it favors his particular playstyle, but I think it's also nice as a bio player against mech to have a little bit of that early game control. It will be a battle of lots of units, but not good units, versus a few very good units, tanks and ravens and Vikings, and they just have to be well positioned. It'll also be a slower expansion process for GuMiHo, but one that should still be okay. I think what it would be really problematic, because he loses the Cyclone War, is if GuMiHo tries to take the 3rd CC, gets it denied, and then is delayed by another minute beyond that. That's when I think the bio player feels really good about their life. If the 3rd CC comes down when the first attempt is made at it, basically, I think the bio player is kind of like, no. Which is kind of what's happening here. GuMiHo had to delay it, yes, but I still think this is what I would count as the first attempt to take it is successful. It'd be if, like, Byun had moved the tanks forward with this, has them sieged up here, and the 3rd CC still can't land. That would have been more awkward. But it's probably not actually possible. GuMiHo's tank count is not that impressive, but with the interference matrix that also come down, it would have been a little scary. But Byun wasn't even really prepared to try and deny the 3rd CC, right? Only now bringing his tanks over. Moving on into additional barracks soon. Oh, there they are. 4th and 5th is done. No supply block. And a 4th CC on location is what you would want. Map control goes all to the bio player. Faster upgrades go to the bio player. And a faster max out goes to the bio player. But GuMiHo, slow and steady, wins the race. Very rabbit versus turtle. Hare versus turtle. Is there really that much of a difference between a rabbit and a hare? Like, do I have to be super accurate there? Anyway. Speaking of being super accurate, and anyway, someone on my YouTube, shout out to that guy if he's watching this again. Anyways. He was like, he just basically went on a push it glass up nerd. English is not a fluid language. Know-it-all type of tone, where he said that anyway is a word, anyways is not. And initially I responded to him saying, like, what a thing to nitpick, what a dumbass. But then I just said, I deleted it, I rewrote it, and I said, cool story, anyways. Which I was pretty proud of. But then I actually did look into it, because I think that, you know, it is kind of a struggle just in general between being like, well, language is entirely fluid and you should let anyone speak and write like anything because fucking English, what even is it? It's a zombie language. There's that side of things, and there's also, well, there's correct way to say things. Good pronunciation is something I think that people should strive for, just to be able to communicate as clearly as possible in day-to-day life, blah, 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 blah. So I looked into it, and the Webster Dictionary talked about how anyways is actually a word. And they had their own little spiel about, you know, language being flexible and so on and so forth. So I then linked the guy that. So haven't gotten a response from him. But so often when I see people try to correct minor notes on pronunciation, grammar, so on and so forth, I always believe that that is the one thing that they have in their life that they can feel superior about. But we do have some real action, so moving on. Big old drop on top of that third CC, taking away the tank's power. Vikings and Ravens were not included there to help, but they come after the fact and help clear things up anyways. Third CC does land again. Only 3 SCVs died, maybe more now with this little hit squad left over, but ultimately, since GuMiHo got his 4 bases up uninterrupted, I would say that that is not enough there from Byun. So Byun, what he really was he was missing out on their previous series whenever he was facing GuMiHo's mech was that he was missing out on a transfer period. He could not transition. He was really locked in on bio, trying to hit certain goals, and was unsuccessful in hitting those goals. So if you're successful in hitting those goals, so delaying expansions and tearing down tank numbers, which is going much better this time around, for sure, as he once again breaks into the third CC. Actually, yeah, so good, in fact, he wins. That's all well and good. If he had been continually denied from actually breaking GuMiHo, then his late transition to a starport is really scary. Because if GuMiHo holds on a 4 bases, holds on a 150 supply, manages to crank out the 200, 180 to 200 supply, moves out, and only then is Byun starting to transition. Max up mech army is better than the max up bio army. So it was really important that he was able to do that break, was able to tear down the number of tanks, tear down the defensive position, and overwhelm. Really improving from the last best of. Now game 2 is going to be on Waterfall. A map where I do not believe GuMiHo will try and mech. There are cases of small maps still being used to mech, especially if mech was the more popular choice of particular meta. But I think there are obvious reasons why that's usually not the option. Bottom left, up 1, Byun. Top right, GuMiHo. So the downsides of being on a short map while trying to mech, you are the defender, you are trying to just hold on for dear life in about the mid-game is when you really struggle a lot of the time. Against a good bio player anyways. And the mid-game only gets stronger the shorter the distance of attack for the aggressing player, right? The guy who's being aggressive has 3 or 5 seconds cut from his actual attack on your third. That is the difference of your tanks getting sieged up or in position, or your Vikings, whatever, being there or not. Additionally, it means that attacking from one direction to the next gets a little more complicated the shorter the map gets. Although I have always thought the current map pool does a good job of accommodating for such issues, so this was a very, very, very short map. But one of the best things that the map designer did was made sure that this does not, a ramp here would have made this the shortest map ever, would have made this completely wackadoo, but put the ramps on the other sides, which complicates matters a lot, actually. And while the 4th CC is kind of a hard get if you're going to try and go for this expansion process, you could just continue expanding down that way, and it wouldn't be too bad to defend this area with tanks. Anyways. So like I said, that's probably the more obvious thing that you guys are also like, yeah, of course, we get it, ZombieGrub. Shorter maps, maybe not great for the defending player. But there is something to be said about how brutal it is if you do successfully defend 3 to 4 bases as a mech player. and then push. When we think of a mech player moving out, we think perhaps of bio players trying to buy a lot of time, take some engagements, shave off some tank numbers, and ultimately create a space of an open engagement with a super big concave and surround, right? Well, you give us a short map, and the mech gets stopped once, maybe, on its destruction path. And then before you know it, it's in some place really important, like your third or natural. So that can be the upside of going mech here. And the only reason I'm really emphasizing the mech options is because GuMiHo did mech 2 games in a best of 3 on Sunday, and mech last game. So it is possible he's trying to really push that option once more in this matchup. But already things going a little sour for GuMiHo, losing out the Reaper battle. Hellion pops out unideally. Oh, almost saving all 3 Reapers. 2 Reapers probably won't cause game-ending damage, but it is just a sucky opener for GuMiHo. Actually, not too bad, maybe. Yeah, Hellion pops out. So if it was 3 Reapers again, still alive, I'd be concerned once more, but this is fine. This is fine. I mean, it's fine. Okay, it's fine. We're good. Byun is still reactoring out. Or not reactoring. He is still pumping out 2 barracks because this one was coming up. So it's it's a little sketch, but the snowball has been stopped. If 1 more Reaper survives in every one of these battles, it's perhaps even like a game-ending snowball. But fortunately for GuMiHo, that is not the case. 1 Reaper, 1 very important Reaper died in every one of these engagements. Thus, Byun's opener is not going to be able to straight up just get the victory. Would have been nice, would have been easy, does not do so. Does still give Byun a lead. Ish. Maybe not a lead, actually. GuMiHo's 2 orbitals are done. Building double SCVs. Byun's command center not yet done, so... Actually, I think what it did is it might have just perfectly balanced things out. Give it a minute and we'll see what the SCV counts at. But it might have perfectly balanced it out with the command center timing from Byun. It's funny. Medevac's on the way for both parties. We could have a little sailing ships in the nights missing each other as they go slightly left and slightly right. GuMiHo's going to have a tank. Byun's going to have a cyclone. 1 more microbull than the other. But it really depends on how they engage. It really does. Okay, we got the pickup. He's figuring he's going to have the aggression to get a 3rd CC on location safely. Byun might be right about that. Medevac from GuMiHo did not pick up the tank. It just picked up 2 Hellions, a Marine, and a Reaper. Oh, that's a crew. That's okay. That does mean that there are plenty of units back at home to defend against this, even though a Cyclone is a bit sketch. A tank's already sieged. This one will have to siege up as well, but it should be fine. SCVs being pulled is something also to consider. 3 SCVs go down, lots of lost mining time. And I don't think GuMiHo is going to get the same amount of damage done. Not at all on the other side of the map. 1 Cyclone from Byun pops out. 1 more Cyclone, importantly enough. Mass repair with the SCVs. 2 Hellions, not enough to actually one-shot the SCVs. Repairing means that Byun, well, also loses mining time. Did not lose SCVs. And Byun has actually been kicking butt this entire game. He's now up 10 workers with a 3rd CC done on location. Army supply is a little imbalanced, okay, sure, but with a lot of units involved in that. So absolutely, GuMiHo still having 3 tanks to 1 is the biggest problem right now, 100%. But there are some units included in GuMiHo's army supply lead, like Hellions and maybe the 8 Marines won't really impact the game. We shall see. We shall see. This is the moment for GuMiHo to get some counter damage done, but he has to get so much done. I'm not really sure that is possible. Perhaps if Byun has no idea this attack is on the way. Oh my god, it's going to get so much done, guys. Oh no. He had no idea the army was coming in for that direction. Now forced to pull the SCVs as one of his tanks actually went out in the tank war. How about that? And he comes in with a bit of a surround, but this was exactly the damage that GuMiHo was looking for. 22 SCVs go down. A lot of lost mining time. All these mules are going to have very effective mining. I mean, that was chaos for sure. Byun just did not realize the army was coming through the middle. If he had been able to buy a couple extra seconds and have all of his units in position, it still would have been opened. There'd be opportunities for GuMiHo, but it wouldn't have been SEV pull time, I don't think. I think Byun could have bought more time for like the upgrades or more units or more Raven energy, something along those lines. I said GuMiHo did the damage he wanted, but that actually might not be accurate. GuMiHo has a 6-worker lead, but he still doesn't have a 3rd CC. He still doesn't have stim. I don't think his plan is going to mech. No, definitely not, because his 2nd gas not taken to the natural. So that lack of stim is horrific. He might just have to go into mech because of the very delayed upgrades. He is continuing to pressure the 3rd base. Viking control goes to him. He was able to bully away the Raven. But this is a decent number of units that are going to be able to tackle just 2 really alone tanks right there. And there you have it. Now Byun has the army supply lead. Takes down a medevac, a Viking. Does lose his own Raven. Very much unnecessarily, but I think that's okay. Byun's army supply is good. His upgrades are good. His 3rd CC is still on location, although it has been interrupted multiple times. And now he is the one initiating a counterattack, in which he will contain GuMiHo's 3rd. Finds a tank on the rally. GuMiHo absolutely needed that. And GuMiHo is trying to catch up on the bio. The mech, I'm not saying that mech would have been his salvation. Like, that would not have solved all of his problems. Absolutely not. But now his problem is having the identical composition, but just far less of it. And far less upgrades for it as well. 16 SCVs go down. And while it is absolutely necessary to try and hold against this, it ultimately means that GuMiHo is dead. So GG. Byun now with a 2-0 lead. Byun getting some serious revenge for their last series. You learned persnickety today? Persnickety is a great word. GuMiHo is taking a second. And now he's ready to go. Tropical Sacrifice, potentially the last game of the series. In the top right, up 2-0, he is Byun. The bottom left of Tropical Sacrifice, he is GuMiHo. First game, pretty okay game. I would say got to a good position for my player, 4 bases up and running, but Byun's more streamlined position than their previous best of really led him to... gave him the units necessary to actually break GuMiHo at multiple points, and did the kind of classic bio mech thing, which was tear down the tanks once, come in again, tear down the tanks second time, come in again, actually overwhelm. Second game, it did start off very awkward for GuMiHo. The Reapers were awkward, even though he mostly dealt with them, and like I had said, it kind of looked like it was going to just straight up even out. Then Byun came in with a drop, and that also did more damage, right? So from that point on, GuMiHo was trying to make a comeback happen. He had the tools, technically, to make it happen, but Byun's quick decision-making, evaluating the defense, the risk versus reward, pulled the SCVs, and with his third CC on location and done, and GuMiHo's wasn't even on the way, meant that it was the absolute right decision to still have him ahead. So it could have been tricky. He could have taken more damage, and GuMiHo would have been ahead. If there was a more slow, methodical push from GuMiHo, maybe he loses SCVs and has his third have to lift in a way that Blitz... Well, I was thinking, like, the Blitz obviously worked because Byun won. It looked like it was good for GuMiHo because so many SCVs died. But if there was a methodical Siege Hop, Viking, Stranglehold, then SCV pull, maybe that would have actually been better for GuMiHo. We don't know. Point is, it worked out for Byun, and he was able to take an economic lead, an army lead, and that was it. So Byun has been kicking butt. GuMiHo has really not had, I guess, the best early and mid games for him. And now he's going to go into factory expand, factory expand. Okay, pretty normal TvT stuff. World travel vlogs incoming. I actually still have a lot of footage from my last one. Just a matter of editing. But I did take more footage this time around too. Got a hiking vlog and a cat cafe vlog. I might have time to sneak in a PC bong vlog. Oh, Byun's once again going to go into a 2-1-1 setup. Again, it's absolutely not the strict 2-1-1 build that we would think of when we think of a TvZ, right? Barracks, factory, starport, but idea is still the same. 2 barracks, factory, starport. Faster medevacs, faster sim, running around, being a little mosquito. Zip, zip, zip. And GuMiHo is the one choosing the typical defensive 1-1-1 tech setup. That is totally fine. Okay, yes, this was a similar setup to the first game in which Byun was victorious, but there are so many other parts of that game. It's not like it's a... Oh my god. Oh my god. This is actually surprisingly good. Going up the ramp. It's always questionable, but... Okay, Byun does hold without having to pull any SCVs. It's just, It's always so amazing when they go up against the ramp. Up the ramp against exact same units. It's like, this isn't supposed to go well. Anywho, it's not like the 2-on-1 is a superior choice. Absolutely not, actually. But that is what Byun is doing. And with GuMiHo's army being stopped short of entering into the natural, he has no idea that this is the build that is being chosen. So, he'll scout it when his little drop comes in. This time he is going to include the tank, and he'll probably siege up over here and be really annoying, but it's going to be potentially problematic, because what can happen is he sieges up, thinking slow and steady, doesn't do a whole lot of damage, then maybe saves his units, maybe not, runs back home at a similar time to Byun running after him. That's where I'm thinking things can go really weird. If Byun deals with this drop and then has a 2-1-1, 2 medevac drop heading across the way, GuMiHo might struggle to defend against that. Medevac is going to be locked on, even though the tank would have also been an option that, you know, obviously is more likely to be picked up and break the lock on. That's a lot of Marines. No air units shown yet either, so GuMiHo might be picking up on what Byun has chosen to do. He scans and sees the Marines just backing away. That's awfully suspicious. Where are they going? What's defending? If they don't want to deal with this, then they don't have to run all the way back home, right? So they might have just entered into a couple medevacs. Hopefully GuMiHo is thinking about that. Although I could see in the heat of the moment, just reading it as someone who is taking a very cautious approach to dealing with this, just having their units stuck up in the main base. GuMiHo's positioning in his tanks at home seems like it is totally preparing for this drop, but 16 Marines could No, yeah, no. I mean, if it was just the tank, then yeah, they would 100% land on it, which has kind of, oh, no. Okay, no boosts. If he had been able to boost from here to here, those Marines would not have been able to chase, but an interference matrix would have taken down one of those medevacs from unloading. Could have been really weird, but GuMiHo managed to save his bases pretty much perfectly, even though there was chances for Byun. Byun clears up the tank drop. He did lose some SCVs in doing so, but it looks like he actually did literally clear it up, so medevac and tank both died for GuMiHo. A couple less units to defend on his home side, but still with enough production, obviously defender's advantage. I think he'll be okay. 3 tanks, 2 Ravens, 10 Marines. Those Marines are literally just buffer, though, but a buffer that is sorely needed. Blitzing on top of the tank, just the single tank, in fact, and I guess GuMiHo is not going to be able to hold against that. Needed 2 tanks there, which you can't know exactly where they're going to be moving into, right? But then also maybe needing the Marines, tank, and auto turrets all together firing would have been better as well. So 9 SCVs go down. Natural is forced to lift. 3rd CC is going to be delayed from being put on location. Byun, I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to leave. He can stick around for a little while longer, all while gaining economic superiority. Up. Hold on. 8 workers. And the 3rd CC landing on location, now turning into an orbital. Continued contain on the natural. Byun is giving himself so many leads. Blitzing into the natural was a very correct choice. Very correct. Interference bench didn't do a whole lot there. The slowest retaking of a natural ever. Will eventually happen. Byun should lift and leave. It's going to lift and go into the main base. The SCVs have just not been mining this entire time, so they're alive. They haven't been mining. Double medevacs fully unload in the main base with stim and combat shields. Oh, maybe not fully unload. Interference matrix holds off on 2 Marines and, I guess, healing power, right? But 12 SCVs still go down for GuMiHo, who is already behind in so many ways. I mean, so behind that he should just die. He should just die. Both these medevacs are still alive, believe it or not, looking for not necessarily opportunities for themselves, but looking for opportunities for the reinforcements. They got a big old scout into the main and natural. Looks like the medevac in the main finally does get taken down, but it's still, even if there aren't opportunities to break GuMiHo right here, right now, Byun is now up 25 workers, going up to a 4th base on location. He has combat shields. GuMiHo does not. His armory is done, working on 2-2. GuMiHo can't afford that. Do I have to continue listing the ways that GuMiHo is pretty screwed in this game? Probably not. You guys get the picture. He's really screwed. If GuMiHo plays this out perfectly, TvT is a comeback matchup for sure, but it's so hard to do so. Well, that was not too good of a drop, was it? So you could see what Byun was thinking with it, but nah, not actually worth the attempt there. Would have been far better just making sure he could contain the 3rd CC, which I think is still going to be possible, but the army is only just now coming across the map. So maybe 3rd CC is okay. All the chokes on Tropical Sacrifice. Really, the most dangerous thing Byun could do is maybe wrap around the north and come in. If he comes in through that direction, this tank is the only thing guarding the natural. And then it's also kind of like 1 tank firing at a time. So you might even be able to collapse in on the army itself. But, you know, killing this tank and then going into the natural would be the best option for Byun. Here he goes. The scan reveals his intentions, however, and GuMiHo is making sure to reinforce the area. He only has so many tools, so he's trying to make do with what he's got. So a little bit of SimCity, a little bit of a scout, tank on the high ground, excellent maneuver. Is going to stop a 20-30 army supply, probably. Like really well-positioned tanks with spotters, probably going to stop up to 30 army supply leads. That's why TvT can have comebacks. But the next problem in TvT is the air problem. So Byun With his 4th CC up and running now, 80 workers, 2-2 finishing. I mean, he could try and just throw bodies at GuMiHo and wouldn't be wrong for it. But he could also add on starports and take area superiority. The thing that Terrans have to do in this position, why Maru can be so good in this position, why he would bring this game back, which I think other Terrans have picked up on, by the way, so it's no longer a Maru-specific thing. But one of the reasons I think he was so good at it before everyone else was that he was really insistent on building Vikings the entire time he was behind. So even though that was cutting into ground production, you could say, wow, what if he just gets overwhelmed? It would usually, with really good tank positioning, just right enough scouting, that type of thing, it would save him from the eventual transition that was killing most of the Terrans, who would say, like, yay, I'm not dead. Oh, shit, 16 Vikings and 2 Liberators are going to kill me. So GuMiHo's also trying to get on top of that now. He's been building Vikings, saying at now only 1 medevac is one of them shot down, because he knows that's going to be the next problematic step in this TvT, is dealing with that air. If Byun was just fully committing to army after army being thrown at GuMiHo, yeah, maybe the Vikings aren't actually helpful. Maybe he does get overwhelmed. Maybe his 30 army supply deficit plus the lack of the Vikings in location, maybe it does kill him. But if everything works out swimmingly, then he can cover both his ground presence with a limited supply and his air presence with consistent production. Because it's not a lot of production. He does not have his own 3 starports, but he could cover it with consistent production. He's actually, I think, making a choice right now. Oh, no. Oh, wow. Oh, my God. He's only been on 3 barracks, guys. I was wondering if that was barracks 6 and 7. And he was going to double down on the ground army, which is not usually what the defensive Terran chooses to do, by the way, so it would have been quite weird. But no, he's filling out the production of a 3-base Terran player. That's not, it's not a good sign. Also not a good sign, GuMiHo obviously waited too long to add that production. He has been banking a lot of minerals and gas, actually, so he could have also been building 2 starports at the same time, because anything is better than just holding on to money, right? This isn't like a Zerg situation where they have larvae waiting to make the exact right units. Terrans are basically just go, 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 production, production, production. So this is just the lack of barracks and I like not very good macro. I feel uncomfortable saying that. GuMiHo's 4th CC lives, but will not be on location anytime soon. Byun's on 5 bases, with a planetary on his 5th. 6th also becoming a planetary. Yikes. Armor supplies have evened up quite a bit, however. Even though GuMiHo's still banking more. I think Byun just gave away some army there. And is building an army of slower building units, the Vikings and the Ravens. His 3-3 is done. He's got double armory working. His Ravens are looking for key interference matrix. He's looking for a fight in the air as well. 10 Vikings for Byun. Very quickly become 8. Okay, that just very quickly became an even fight. How even, though? How do? GuMiHo's 4th CC this time around looks like it's going to get killed. No SCVs to repair in the middle of nowhere. Sorry, the EWACs can't do it. And the Viking War once again commencing. Who is winning? Oh, absolutely Byun. Oh my god, that's so one-sided now. So absolutely one-sided. 8 Vikings in the air for Byun, 0 for GuMiHo. What does GuMiHo do here? He lifts his main? Natural? I don't... Why is it... I mean, is SCV just as long as his mine? I guess. I mean, they can, apparently. Big old drop in the main base, despite the missile turret there. Well, there's no Vikings to help out, so Byun thinks the risk is worth it. I don't know if it actually technically was, but he's in such a superior position. Who cares? Lost 30 Marines, doing almost nothing. I don't even care. What they did was draw army out of position. Vikings land on the 3rd CC, kill 3 of the tanks defending there. And while the supplies still look weirdly similar, the situation is absolutely not. Byun's army is in really good position. So even though the army supplies had evened up and maybe there was a chance for GuMiHo to do kind of a, okay, I found one army, then I found your next army, then I found your next army, then you counterattack. I mean, there's so much he would have to do in that counterattack to make it worth it. So he just goes ahead and taps out. And that's it, 3-0. Some serious revenge for their last best of 3 on Sunday. GuMiHo 2-0'd pretty convincingly. This time around, best of 5, Byun very on point in his TvT. 3-0's GuMiHo. GG.